Oh yeah, election. It's time. We're going to get serious. There are people asking for jobs that don't know what they're doing, and it's great. So we're going to talk about some developments in that case. But as per usual, nobody's showing up, so it really doesn't fucking matter. So anyway, we're almostagreement@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out what we got going on there. Come Tuesday, we get this primary out of the way. I'm going to at least get a couple people in here. Probably just my district for now, and then I'll spread out from there. But we got a couple cool races coming up, and maybe some predictions tonight. Some state-level stuff. Panera Bread gets an exemption from minimum wage in California. That's a fun story. We'll talk about that. Anyway, we're almost in agreement. Go to your favorite podcast provider. Like us there. Tell your friends about us. And text it to people. That's the easiest way to make sure people listen to our craziness on your reference. So know your friends and tell them about us. Anyway, here's the show. We're going to do it. So I'm going to pre-apologize. I am super snotty tonight. I think it was Tuesday. Was it like Monday, Tuesday? Where like it was acting like a spring day, and
like 70.
Yeah. And my theory of the case here is that every plant in East Tennessee just dumped all its pollen at once, and that got me all like seasonal allergy congested. And then I think I got a little tap of the flu or something like that earlier in the week. And so now I'm just a snot-making machine, and that's all I've been doing. So now that I got that out of the way, hey, buddy, how's it going?
Hey.
How you do? What's new?
Nothing new.
Nothing new. All right, we got lots of interesting different things here and there. We'll start with the local election coverage, I suppose. The early voting ended yesterday, and so that is completed. Turnout was sucky, even suckier than last equivalent, which would have been the 2016. I mean, 2020 theoretically, but whatever, either one. It's less than 2020. I'm trying to think of the compare. Well, because I always do the comparables that have the same races on it. So we had a Democratic primary, but not a Republican presidential primary, which to me would sense that would be a lower turnout in Knox County, since if there's no Republican presidential primary, less Republicans are going to come out and bother with the primary.
Yeah.
And so if you have an uncontested primary, because Trump was uncontested in 2020 in the primary process, that you figure that turnout would be a little bit down. But alas, this is down even more than that. So the numbers suck. Most of the people that have bothered doing early voting are Republicans and old. So what do you think that's going to get us?
Old Republicans.
And so that's where we're at in the cycle. And so I was looking at my sample ballot, which I have the presidential primary. Obviously, I have county commission district 4, law director, and property assessor. If I pull the Republican primary, if I pull the Democratic primary, I have nothing. I mean, literally, if I were to pull the Democratic primary, I would have Joe Biden or uncommitted for president. Shane Jackson is running unopposed in that one. There is a law director, but no opposition on the primary. Property assessor, no opposition in the primary. So I would literally have nothing to vote for if I pull the Democratic primary in my seat. Has
the uncommitted thing, is that something new? Or
I think it's
been
standard
done that for a while.
I think it's standard, and it depends on the state. Some states do, and some states don't have it. I know that Michigan story was a big one this week.
Right, but I think there was another state that had one recently as well.
Yeah, Minnesota. I think Minnesota's is today, and they're doing it. But then you had the
Michigan, that was Nevada that had against Haley, basically. Which
right.
It was a weird, I still never fully understood it. It was none of the above, but it was like two separate races. That Haley was on one, that Trump wasn't on, and then there was a separate one like a week later that Trump was on, that Haley wasn't on.
I think they had a caucus separately, and the caucus is
that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how that works. And so, so I will be pulling the Republican primary because, I mean, I don't disagree. I could pull the Democratic primary.
Chris, I challenge it.
Okay.
It has been. It was on the record.
I could I could pull the Democrat primary, and I could vote uncommitted on Joe Biden because I don't like what we're doing to support Israel in Gaza, which is at the whole point of that uncommitted campaign they did in Michigan.
Chris, if he does that, I object. And
I could do that, but I am going to pull the Republican primary. I am going to write myself in for president. I met Liz Tombras today, and she made sure I wasn't going to vote for her in talking.
So why does it have names for the president, the people that have...
Because the ballot was already established before.
Gotcha.
That is not uncommon.
True.
Then property assessor and law director. So I already know I'm voting for Book, the law director. I'm voting for Garrett Holt in Commission for District 4 for the same reason. Not because I like Book or Garrett Holt all that much. It's that Liz Tombras walked up, knocked on my door, handed me her flyer. It's telling me that she's a Christian mother. She's anti-illegal immigration. She says we have an infrastructure problem and they're letting people develop faster than we have infrastructure for, but she's not going to raise taxes. And I'm thinking this in my head and her going through her spiel going, none of that makes a bit of fucking sense.
As an informed person, you probably should have asked her on this, but it may have given her ideas like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Or,
I mean, in my head, I was thinking, it's like, do I engage with this in my knowledge or just kind of let her do her thing and go from there? Because, like, I mean, I made some points on, like,
she may have taken you off the list.
She made
okay, this person knows.
But I
like
being on the list. It's funny because she said they were on my list as a Republican primary voter. I was like, she's like, are you Republican? I was like, nope. I do not affiliate with any party. And she goes, well, I had you on my list as a Republican. I was like, I'm on the list. I know.
I'm on the list.
Because you guys come to my house all the time. Garrett's been here. Well, Garrett came once, and somebody else from his team came another time.
Yeah.
So they've been here twice. But Garrett, if you're listening, I'm not voting for you because of what you and your team have done to be here. I might be. Actually, no, Garrett, you need to thank Liz for my vote because it is her fault. Because one of the other things she made a big stink about is on the back of hers, it's got her, who can conservatives trust, Liz or Garrett? Liz's team asserts that Garrett is a liberal Democrat. He voted in the primary election for either Hillary or Bernie.
We don't know, but we know
he did. 2016. He pulled the Democratic primary in 2016.
Yeah.
He contributed to the Bernie Sanders campaign and local Democratic candidates and attended Democratic campaign events. Named in Knox County Ethics Committee complaint. We talked about that when that happened. That was with the current county District 4, Kyle Ward bought that piece of property for like $1. That whole weird.
No, he was involved in that.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's bought and paid for by developers, and he refuses the no tax increase pledge. I mean, they cite their work, so I don't know what the bought and paid for is. According to the Knox County Election Commission, Garrett holds financial disclosure from 1/19/2024. He has developers donating his campaign. Which none of those. I mean, none of those are necessarily negatives to me. Like, I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders, but I don't care that he supported Bernie Sanders. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Right.
That actually is a little bit of a plus in the sense that he's not just a party hawk and he only votes and spends money on his own party and stuff like that. The ethics thing is a little problematic, I guess, but that was a weird little ism thingy that he was in the middle of because Kyle Ward appointed him to the seat on the planning commission or whatever anyway, and so it's like, well, he's friends with Kyle, like he has a relationship with Kyle outside of purely politics, and so, like, I don't know, but her pros against those are she is a conservative Republican, she supports Republicans only, she was an ad exec for WBIR, American Advertising Federation Hall of Fame member.
Wait. She was on WBIR? Well, then she's super progressive.
She was an ad exec. She wasn't...
Oh, that makes it even worse. She was selling ads on progressive.
For those liberal haters.
Fox News or nothing.
She advocates responsible housing development and pledges no tax increase. I mean, I'm good with no tax increase, don't get me wrong, but you can't square that circle. Anti-illegal immigration, that's the same thing. Like that's the one that's automatic for me. Because county commission doesn't do shit about immigration, it doesn't have a shot at doing shit. Like, at least when they do the school stuff, it's
that sounds good, right?
I guess, and that's kind of why I didn't. That's part of why, like, when she said that, that's when I just kind of turned off. Like, I'm not going to engage
I mean, who is pro-legal or pro-illegal immigration? Let me just add my name to the pile of anti-illegal things. I'm against all sorts of illegal things.
I'm pro a lot of illegal things, I suppose, but I don't know if immigration's one. That's a complicated one, especially in the libertarian ideals. But immigration reform is an issue. It's an issue that needs to be tended to. You know, I don't know. It's a weird. It's just
if only Congress had tried to pass something. Some non politician decided to weigh their opinions in on it, and all of a sudden it was gone.
I'm not sure what you're referencing right now.
Congress tried to pass I think it was a week or two ago, but it was well known that Trump was anti, and all of a sudden, boom, it just dropped and fell off the water. Everybody was like, no, I don't want to touch that. Trump said he doesn't like it, so we can't do it.
Well, because the dysfunction that is our government is Trump knows that if he has the power to not give Biden the win on the topic, it's good for his campaign.
He has come out and said such.
One of the things I like about Trump, he's dumb enough to say the quiet part out loud. It's not like everybody doesn't do that stuff all the time. Like they don't hold off on a decision because they want to wait till whatever first, and the politics outweighs the governance.
Is that just in hopes of people not having the realization that, like, hey, we almost passed legislation that would have done something about this?
I don't think it's in hope.
Hey, can we just wait a year and then let me do it, and then I can take the win for it?
I don't think it's a hope that people don't notice. I think they know that most people aren't going to notice. I mean, that's like, again, you know, he's dumb enough to say it explicitly out loud, and that doesn't help his case per se, but
I mean, there were a number of like high-ranking GOP. Crenshaw came out and was talking about it. It was like basically like, this is fucking stupid. Like we had a bill, and it got bombed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know where Crenshaw is and how much he gives a shit about being a Trump lackey or not. Though there's a handful of them that they don't agree with the politics at play. But I think, I mean, the problem right now, and I think that's what the Liz Tomras story is she's trying to play Trump politics on weird little local things that don't make sense. Hoping
it'll resonate with
that same sentiment that gets everybody all excited about Trump is going to be the sentiment that gets them excited about her.
She's going to fix it all. She's going to fix the border.
It's just like, you know, it's to me, it's a slap at it. Like, you know, it's insulting. Like I'm sitting, like it's insulting to me. And especially because, like, at this point, you guys should at least put an asterisk or something on the list where my name's at. It'd be like, you know, you should go talk to him, yes, and you should try to convince him to vote for you because I am that voter. I am the most valuable voter out there because I do go and vote, and I am not set. I'm not a fixed vote because they don't go to, you know, my neighbor's house who does vote all the time but always votes for Republicans in the primary. They don't go to my other neighbor's house who doesn't ever go vote. They only come to my house because they know I vote, but they also know that I'm not set in exactly what I'm voting for.
Right.
And I'm just saying they need to add a little line to mine that says, don't say really stupid shit because...
I mean, you would think they already had that info.
You lost your vote.
Hey, don't mention schools.
I mean, it's not like I'm trying to hide that fact from anybody. Right. I'm publishing it to the masses. Not that the masses are necessarily listening, but I'm telling everybody about it. And so, you know, I don't know. She's probably a perfectly nice person, but I can't vote for that. And so, you know, because comparatively, let me go through my pile of flyers here real quick and find my most recent. I only got one presidential. My most recent Garrett Holt, you know.
Does everyone pick the same, just kind of like big, same size, glossy?
Yeah,
flyer?
That's the biggest.
Is that just like the average size of a mailbox or something?
It's the biggest one before you get to where the price change is. Once you get bigger than that, the price changes.
Yeah, touche.
I've done these before for business.
Yeah.
All right, it's elect Garrett Holt, one of his flyers. I've got more than one of his, but he wants to develop and improve alternate routes to relieve traffic on major routes, make forward-thinking development decisions while still preserving the charm of our community, attract and retain the best teachers and law enforcement officers to ensure great schools and safe streets. Uh-oh. It's a little close. It's close. Keep taxes low and support fiscally conservative budgets. So he does not promise no tax increase. But he does mention that he wants to keep them low. But, you know, Garrett's got a war chest because he went full page, too.
Oh, shit.
Playing off of the Long's drugstore closing.
Nice. Playing off that developer money.
Yeah. Garrett Holt wants to see District 4 grow, but not in a way that surrenders the things that made it great to begin with. What a nothing sentence. I mean,
want growth in the county, but not where you guys don't want growth. Because I'm with you guys on that. But
you know, because I was reading the last one and I was thinking about that. Like I do intend to get him in here and do a show with him. If he doesn't listen to this episode and decide it's not worth his time, because I'm probably going to be mean to him. But you know, this develop it, improve alternate routes thing. Like, I get the premise. I like that. It's like, so it's a way to do minor infrastructure changes through signage and stuff like that to encourage people to not go down Kingston Pike all the time. So we take some of the traffic out of Kingston Pike. Problem's going to be is then...
What do you mean signage?
Whatever, I don't know.
Other ways. Hey, are you going down Kingston Pike all from downtown all the way to Farragut? You don't have to go all the way down Kingston Pike. There are other routes you could use.
I don't know. Develop and improve alternative routes. I don't know. I don't know exactly what that...
I can't think of too many areas that you could like add an extra road that's going to alleviate.
But I don't think it's... to me,
congestion.
To me, it reads it's not that he necessarily wants to add another road. He just wants to be like, hey, you know, you can go this way too. Which means... the secrets that I know, because I've lived here forever, are going to get exposed, and I don't like that.
For real?
I want to keep my secrets. I know ways to get places that I don't have to. Basically, that's what he is. He wants to make a Waze app for Knoxville.
Huh.
I mean, that's what that sounds like to me. I don't know. I'll talk more about him. You know,
I mean, most of the major ones have like live, quote unquote, live traffic or whatever.
Yeah, they do. But like most of like Google Maps and Apple Maps, they will not go into neighborhoods unless that's part of your like actual destination. Where Waze, that's the whole thing with the Waze app, is that it'll take you through residential and all sorts of shit. Like, it'll cut you through a neighborhood to get you from here to here because it's faster, even though you're only doing 25, assuming you're only doing the speed limit.
Right.
Not going down that rabbit hole again. Not yet, at least. I'm not drunk enough. But anyway, so yeah, I'll assuming my prediction is right and Garrett does win this race, because I think he's going to win this race because, well, he's put the legwork in.
He had a full page flyer,
if nothing else. But I mean, he's like, I didn't know. Like, I pulled up the ballot this morning because I knew we were going to talk about. I was planning on talking about it tonight, so I was pulling up the ballot because I was like, do I have a primary? I don't know if I have a primary for District 4. I thought I did, and I looked it up this morning. And I was like, oh, I do, and I didn't. But I didn't even look at the name. This is the first time I heard her name. Was when she knocked on my door today, and then immediately made sure she wasn't going to get my vote. So, sucks to be her. Now,
for the company, it's like the Tom Bruce Group. I don't know if there's a connection with that. Probably
perhaps
not.
I sent you a picture of this one, and this is the craziest thing in the world to me. All right, so for the listeners who aren't watching the video,
are they on the ballot at all?
Yeah, he should be down here in this big long list of 700 fucking people.
So you can vote for that position.
It's not position. It doesn't matter technically. It's a weird little ism. Tennessee does not have the what is the phrase? I thought of it earlier and I forgot. The unscrupulous. It's not the right word. Delegates. Tennessee, you're obligated as a delegate, however you get picked to be the delegate, to vote for whomever got the most votes in your district that you're representing. Now, other states, they permit, because this happened, like, it's the whole electoral college thing, right? Like, so theoretically, the state of Tennessee has what, 12 delegates?
Yeah, something like that.
You know, so we have 12 delegates, and when we vote for president in the actual presidential race, when we vote for president, we really are voting for 12 people to go vote for the president we told them to. And now it's theoretically legal in some states by their constitution or inside their state election laws that those people do not have to honor the will of the people who voted for them to go vote for them.
I was reading about that last night when we were I was looking for some of this stuff. What are they called? Faithless electors.
Faithless.
Faithless.
Like, yeah, that one.
I want to say it's been upheld that it is unconstitutional for them to do that.
Sure.
But like you said, there is like some weird state laws that...
And so But in Tennessee, at least from my understanding of it, I actually spent some time talking to the Compass guys about it. I brought that up on their show today because they were talking about it. I was like, I've never seen this before. So anyway, I'm sorry. We just glossed over because you know this and the listeners don't. I got a mailer from John Rose as a statewide delegate for Trump. I mean, yes, theoretically, somewhere on this long-ass list will be John Rose.
I see him.
There he is right there. On the bottom of the first page of delegates is John Rose. And so theoretically, so you get to pick 14. You get to pick 14 committed and uncommitted delegates at large in the state, right? And so basically you do your first page of the ballot, you pick your president, you pick whatever other district stuff that you have available, and then you go down there and you pick 14 people that under their name it says the name of the person you picked to run for president. It's really all it is. What it matters to anybody who the 14 are, because I mean there's names on here, like there's other names we know, and maybe some of this is fun little signaling games that they do behind the scenes, like for I don't know, Scott Smith, he's a Ron DeSantis delegate. Not that DeSantis is suspended a campaign, right? He's not running yet. Right. So he's not even technically a candidate anymore. But for Scott Smith, it was important enough for him to show his support for DeSantis or anti-support for Trump or whatever it is. But Mayor Jacobs, Tim Hutchinson, John J. Duncan Jr., Michelle Carringer, Hornbeck, Jason Zachary. Ooh, Jason Zachary's at DeSantis. Ooh, I would have thought he would have been a Trumper. Anyway, so like as far as like behind the scenes, like your people that are active in the party, in the state party apparatus. I think some of this is for like a Glenn Jacobs character. This is Glenn Jacobs in an off cycle to keep his name in the statewide because he'll be on the statewide version of this. So that's to throw his name out there in places where maybe he might be sending some gubernatorial material to in the next year or so. For this character, John Rose, he has a district that's pretty safe and has a bunch of campaign money left over and has another campaign going up, or maybe he has a statewide race that's in his future that he's thinking about, and he wants to get his name in front of some East Tennesseans because he's from West Tennessee. But it's still just the weirdest thing ever to me that I get a mailer from the John Rose for Tennessee campaign.
Please let me be the one.
And the missus had the best joke ever because she got it out of the mailbox. And she said, she asked me to guess she asked me to guess what I thought her first thought was in seeing the flyer. And I was like, why are we voting for delegates? She's like, no, I want to meet his first wife and family. Because Mr. John Rose here is, I don't know, what do you think, 65? 70?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And this woman he is standing with, presuming it's his wife.
That could just be daughter.
Chelsea.
Could be daughter.
It could be. I would think you would. I feel like you would want to clarify that if this is not your immediate family, if this is his kid and grandkids.
It's just a picture of him with family.
I don't know. I think I don't know. My assumption was it was his family, immediate family. Anyway, this lady is probably 20 years younger than him, and it looks like a 9 and 6-year-old, something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
So, good luck, kids. You're not going to have a dad in a couple more years because he's going to die of old age. I know. I'm hateful. Super, super hateful.
That's fine. There's a few uncommitted that were on the list.
What do you got? Let's see.
For the delegates.
Yeah.
Oh, 2.
Dia Hart and Lisa Ann Flowers. So I don't know. Like, it's a buddy, I guess. You see your buddy's name on there. Fill him in. You don't have to. It doesn't make it, like, as far as I understand it, it doesn't make a functional difference what you do. If you put Trump in as your primary pick, whomever the elected delegates are, all 14 of them are obliged to vote for Trump in the primary caucus or convention or whatever it is they do. So that's my stack of flyers talk for the day.
Yay!
I think. So the quick prediction is, I think Trump is winning the presidential part of this primary. I think Charles Frazier is going to win County Commission District 1. I think Garrett wins District 4. I have no idea on any of these people in District 5. I think Terry Hill keeps her seat. I think Barry Neal wins 9. That's going to be an interesting one. Apparently Andy Fox is like a super anti-wokester, for lack of a better word. So it's not dissimilar to this Liz Tombrus or whatever. That's whatever. I think Jackie Raley is going to win the assessor's primary, and I think Book holds on to his primary in that portion. The one Democratic primary have, I think Evelyn Gill is going to hold on to that. I think Joseph Robinette Biden wins the presidential primary. I mean, that's lame. I mean, it's just lame to me. Like, there's, was it Howard Dean? Who's the other one? He's an old school, like.
It's not Phillips?
Dean Phillips.
Dean Phillips, yeah.
Yeah, see, I was in the ballpark.
Yeah.
See, but they don't have delegates. Well, I guess because it doesn't matter. I don't know. I might write in. I don't know. I'll write in somewhere. I guess I'm gonna write in for president. I'm gonna write myself in for president.
Yeah, why not? Make sure you put Lord in there.
Damn straight. Put it all the way in there, and I'm
Lord President.
And I'm gonna be I'm gonna look at you, Mr. Davis, to send me a screenshot of my ballot when you see it, because you're gonna have to look at it, because I'm gonna write some shit in. Maybe I'll write in a delegate. I'll write myself in as a delegate. How's that? Would that be better? I mean, it's pointless anyway. Either one's pointless. They're both pointless races. So yeah. Anyway, that's election stuff. I predict Super Tuesday, on the grand scheme of things, will be Trump across the board.
Super.
Mr. Biden. I'm interested to see how many other states that have this uncommitted thing option and how that turns out, because the Michigan one, I mean, that's not 100 and something thousand people. It's not an insignificant number.
I saw the reference. I think it was like a 2016 election. It was one of the previous elections that there was a state. I don't know if it was necessarily Michigan, but there was a state that did that, and it was actually less numbers than the Michigans voted. Maybe it was Michigan.
Yeah, like was one of the things that that Breaking Point was talking about is, like, you know, you can't write, like, apparently it's not uncommon that these states that have them, especially in a non-contested primary like the Biden is right now or whatever, that you get a handful of people that they come in to do their Democratic primary for the other stuff that's on it, but don't like the president that they're stuck with for their party, but until they do it. So it's not like a huge jump from zero, but it's usually like less than 5%.
Yeah.
And it was up to like 20, I think is what they said, about 20% of the Michigan primary voters.
I don't know.
But 100,000+ people, which is a huge number of people.
Like I said, I saw something that you know, just 4 or 8 years ago, this was a lower number than the people that had voted undeclared or whatever at that time.
And so, yeah, I know there's other states that have the option. Obviously, Tennessee does. We just learned by looking at the ballot. I'd be curious to see if there's any. Like, I haven't seen any other push. Like, apparently, but you know, we don't have a Democratic senator, or we have like one House person. What's the Democrat from Tennessee?
I don't even know if we have that.
Yeah. You know, but was it Omar or Rashida Tlaib? Who was it? We talked about this last week. That was out campaigning for it. The senator from Michigan, or the representative from Michigan, who was out campaigning for it. The mayor of Dearborn was out campaigning for it. You know, maybe Jones and Pearson are out campaigning for it in their own districts. But I just haven't heard anything on this side of Tennessee about it. And I run around with enough. I run around, at least on Facebook, with enough local Democrats that if it was a thing, I would have heard about it by now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. how that goes. Speaking of Pearson and Jones, they're already getting themselves in trouble just a week or so into the new session because the House rules basically make it impossible for them to do anything.
I didn't hear about that.
Well, I was reading one of the articles you'd sent me.
I just saw that. Yeah, they were trying to pass a law that I guess like going forward that if someone's removed, I didn't read the full article.
Right. And further down into the ban on reappointing booted lawmakers or whatever law that they're discussing, further down in there, they're talking about how Jones has been called and voted out of order like multiple times already, and like the new rules have like you can't talk in session for 24 hours. And if you're a repeat offender, you can't talk in session for a week.
Damn.
You know, and I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard the clips of it and haven't watched it in real time to see, like, I don't know what order or out of order in the session is.
Right.
But it's like when you won't let him talk anyway and he has to interrupt to even say anything, and then you call him out of order for it, and then he's not allowed to talk again. Like, what's the point? I guess that's the point of the rules, but...
Yeah, I did see a story earlier that I guess there was a congressional aide, I believe, that apparently, like, got up and supposedly was semi-yelling at Jones. But it was a fellow Democratic lawmaker's aide. And I think that aide's already been dismissed, basically, for being, you know, improper decorum within the Senate House, let alone...
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, the question is what's the point? Like, what's the point of the room? What are we trying to do there? And I already know the answer is nothing to do with us, of the citizenry at large. You know, and I kind of enjoy, like, I hate it for these guys. I don't hate it for these guys. I don't know. I don't really care directly per se, but like, it's so blatant and out in the open how completely dysfunctional Tennessee Republican Party is in the House of Reps, and how completely inept at doing anything like govern they are, and so they just make it so they do what they want, and they adjust the rules to make it so they don't have to do anything.
I get a sense that there's definitely a level of frustration with the Democratic lawmakers in the state house. They basically have to stand up and, you know, kind of say what they want to say, but also knowing that. Right.
Well, I mean, it's like why I always say
do shit.
Gloria had the best job ever, because she wins by making noise. She doesn't win by getting anything passed.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and I don't know. It's supposed to be representative, and and functionally for the people that bother voting in the state of Tennessee, this is representative of us. And I could see it being very frustrating, being one of the minority of people that bother voting in the state of Tennessee for not Republicans, and watch the people that you send there get treated like they don't exist because, well, you don't. And that's just, I don't know. It's the rules making part and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't know. To me, it just screams like this is how ineffectual you are as a body, is you can't do it the right way as far as, let's have real discussions and talk about things and figure out what the best way to do this moving forward is. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have the votes. But to just, and maybe that's what it is too. It's like, we're going to have the votes at the end of the day, so why are we going to waste our time even listening to you speak? You're just wasting our time, and you might get a good quote in, and I have to answer for that later.
I would like to think that some of this new rule is trying to maybe codify decorum, which I would have thought would have been already been semi-established at this point. But
I don't know.
People find ways around like little small rules, like, well, it says that blah blah blah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying
the old, like, who was it? Strom Thurmond had like one of the filibuster rules that apparently, like, you know, made a big talk for hours on end, and you couldn't take a foot off the floor. And at one point, he had to relieve himself, and I guess somebody held like a bucket or something, like right outside the door, where he kept like 1 foot on the floor and 1 foot in the hallway as he was pissing into a bucket. So I mean, you find like little caveats like that. Like, well, it says I can or can't do this. So I don't know if part of, you know, I mean, Jones's interruptiveness was,
again, like, I don't hate
I'm like, well, it says like I have the floor for 5 minutes, and
I don't hate the idea of having subsets of like we need to have rules in place so that we can actually discuss things and we can actually, we can have polite conversation or whatever. But that's not what these rules are anymore. And then the decorum, who cares? Like I don't know.
Who cares?
If
the people that get the floor of the house is going to turn into a shouting contest, then no.
I mean, but if the people get to break the rules on what is and what isn't decorum, then all you have to do is like, well, disagreeing with me because I'm the speaker sexton. If you disagree with me and what I say, then you're out of order. You're breaking decorum because I get to make the rules. That doesn't seem very democratic to me.
Yeah, but I'd like to think that wouldn't pass any kind of resolution where they've got to pass the rules.
Basically what they've been doing. I mean, it's basically like they won't call on them when they raise their hands or whatever the normal procedure is. And so one of the things that they keep getting in trouble for is just standing up and starting talking because they don't get called on. Because this bill is on the floor, open for comments. Zachary from Knoxville, and Zachary will go on some stupid pre-prepared speech or whatever he does, and then blah 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 from Middlesboro, and he'll say something for a minute. It's like, okay, time's up, vote. And that's what Gloria Johnson talked about all the time. She'll sit there and just be with her hand up the whole time, or whatever signaling they do to say, I want to speak on this.
Right.
And they will just pass them over and be like, okay, that's enough comment, let's vote on this. It's like, no, it's not. You had people that wanted to speak. And you had people that voted for those people who wanted to hear their person speak.
Yeah.
I think that would be appropriate. Now, I don't know. I could get behind you get 5 minutes or whatever, so that doesn't end up being a 65-hour session every time because the person who wants to delay it or doesn't want to do it just talks and talks and talks. The Strom Thurmond one you were talking about a second ago.
Right.
I don't know if we have filibuster rules in the House here in Tennessee, but I don't know. Let everybody talk if they want to talk, and then vote on it. It's not like you're going to lose the vote anyway. You're just wasting time, and they know you're wasting time, and they're wasting time on purpose. And because all you're really doing is like, we don't want you to get the soundbite, or I don't want to have to answer a question from a reporter because of what you said in your section. And it's like, well, tough. You have to put up with that. That's your job. And I'm not in I'm not in Gloria Johnson's district, but if I voted for her to be there and she never gets to speak on any of the topics ever, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
All right.
And I think it's
your elected voice isn't getting a voice.
Right. It's a miscarriage of the process at minimum. And so I don't know, and again, and then this other one about, well, we're going to ban you getting voted back in after we kick you out. It's like, this is democracy, right, guys? Like, the people elected me to be here. You already kicked me out once, which was already a slap in the face to everybody that voted for me.
We had a special election. It's hey, I got voted in again. My people still want me here.
Right. The district that I represent wants me here.
Right.
So either deal with me here and let me do my job, or kick me out and I'll come back, and kick me out and I'll come back because they want me here.
Yeah, I didn't read the full article. I don't know if it talked about maybe just kicking him out for a cycle.
It was both. There was different versions that were discussed, whether it was a 4-year, 8-year, or lifetime ban from holding office.
Guess it would depend on the transgression.
It depends on and it depends on who wants to go through the process of the banning and what they want to say at the end of it. It's horseshit. What all it is to me is it's weak ass. It's just weak ass governance.
I was literally trying to look up something else, and then I saw those two stories. I was trying to see, because I know we talked about it last week, the one rep that had some crazy fucking comment. But then I saw...
Oh, yeah. Killing babies in Palestine. The other guy.
Yeah. I guess there was a different guy that, within the span of maybe 2 weeks, had said he wasn't going to run again. But then apparently, I guess Trump reached out to him and was like, hey, you should really reconsider running again. I think that was... Representative Green, which I think it said he's one of the heads of the Homeland Security Committee.
Got me.
But I guess he's now said, okay, yeah, I'm going to run again.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, is it that guy that said something shitty a week ago? And I was like, okay, never mind, it's different people.
Not that guy. But then again, the Gloria Johnson bill is still rolling through too, which I actually agree with that one. I don't think it's right for you to run for 2 offices.
I'm glad they pointed out that 4 years prior, I guess there was somebody else that had done it in the state.
Right. And he lost the primary for the federal seat, and so he just ran for the state seat. That's what it said in the article.
Well, they ended up getting it, yeah.
Right. And he ended up winning it. And it's like, well, like that would be the logical, I guess. I think I guess I'm not opposed to the premise of you can primary for multiple seats, but you shouldn't be able to run for multiple seats. It was interesting, like Florida apparently, you can't run for office while in office. Any office. Unless it's an incumbency, like run like they're the state legislature of.
So if you had a separate office, you can't run for a different office while you're in office.
The state legislature of Florida, and this might explain why it took so long for DeSantis to actually officially announce that he was running for president, because the state legislation of Florida actually wrote a carve out in to allow DeSantis to run for president while he was governor. But by Florida election laws, you cannot run for office unless it's to retain your current. If you're not termed out. So if it's, if you're running for governor and if you are currently governor, you can run for governor for your second term, but you can't run for any other office while you're governor.
I think they're just trying to slow down kind of like that whole step up process of going from one and kind of stepping up.
To me, it reads, it's like we would like you to do your job, and your job is not to campaign for another office. Your job is to do whatever the job is you were elected for. That would be the logical conclusion.
Yeah, but that's how long our election cycles are.
Sure. And so, I mean, I kind of like that. Depending, and it depends too. I don't know how Florida state legislature works as opposed to the way Tennessee's is, because I think it's reasonable to put some breaks in place to say, well, during session you need to do your job. If you're running a campaign, you need to set that aside until session's over, since we only run a part-time session.
Yeah.
Now, Florida might be full-time, and that might be part of the reasoning behind why they did the way they did it, too. Because I do think that's one of the problems that starts happening, is you're too busy campaigning. But, I mean, theoretically, you're always campaigning, because the way you vote should be part of your campaigning, I would think. But, nobody pays attention to what you vote for, so... And it's not that easy to find, as much as they say it is. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I think that's appropriate. I do. I don't think you should be able to run for. I could see an argument to say you could primary, and then if you have multiple primaries, then you need to pick one. It still kind of handicaps the voter, and it's kind of rude, but at least you're not because I mean, the Gloria example would be if she somehow pulls off the upset and beats Blackburn, which I don't think she would anyway, but somehow she pulls it off. Then District 90 doesn't have a candidate. I mean, it's already happened. Seema was going to run for 90, with Gloria not. And I think Seema would have been a good candidate for it. Would she have won the seat or not? Who else might have gotten into play if Seema hadn't? There's all sorts of questions that are already answered because Gloria made the decision. And it's like, well, you somehow pull off the upset and get this Senate seat, and now there's nobody representing District 90. And then we have to go through the appointment process or something like that. It's like, that's just kind of, when we have an election and it's timely, right, we should vote for the person that's putting in there. We shouldn't vote for you and give you the seat and then you don't take it, and then we have to go through an appointment process and then wait till the next cycle to get a special election in.
Yeah.
It's just kind of cruddy. And so I agree with it. I think that law should, it surprises me that law is not on the books, I guess, on the front end. And especially you get into Knoxville politics, which is odd year politics. Seema being a city councilor, she was gonna have to vacate her city seat. She could have continued the campaign, but had she won the state seat, she would have had to vacate her city seat a year early.
Yeah,
and then screw somebody over, because city's got that weird rule because it's a 2-term city council, but the city rule is if you serve one day, that's a term.
That's right. Yeah.
Where the county is, you have to serve a full term for it to count as a term, which is a hilarious little rule that I know. So, I don't know. What else we got? That's the front end stuff. My crazy... I was complaining about the News Sentinel's voter guide. I don't know. I haven't found it. I haven't looked that hard at it. I don't look at News Sentinel much, even though I'm a whatever. But it was in my newsfeed on Facebook. No, it was in their email. I get emails from News Sentinel because I'm a subscriber.
Yeah.
And
you can unsubscribe if you want.
I know. I pay for it, though. I like my puzzles on the Sundays.
Gotcha.
I do my comics and stuff.
I mean, as far as getting email notifications.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I do, and I like to look at it always because it always cracks me up because it's it's not local news. It's barely local news if it is, and if it is local news, it's U2 Sports.
Right. That's pretty much, yeah.
And so
brought
anyway,
to you by USA Today. And
right. So anyway, I get this Knox News voter guide. I'm like, oh, cool. Let's see what's going on here. Let me see if I can learn some more about some of the candidates that I get to vote for. And so I scroll down on it. It's literally president, which is kind of interesting because it only has Nikki Haley and Trump on the Republican primary, which, as we discussed just a second ago, there's like 7 names on the Republican primary ballot. It has 3 on the Democratic primary, which there's only 1 name on the ballot. And there's some third-party players.
Well, again, this is a national thing. There are some states, I think, that probably more of those people are on the ballots.
You are Knoxville News Sentinel.
Again,
you are the local newspaper that is getting an election guide for your readers in East Tennessee. I will acknowledge that the News Sentinel is broader than just Knoxville, Knox County.
I'm just saying they are regurgitating the USA Today election guide.
Correct. But they're not even bothering to add anything local to it is what my complaint is. It's like, okay, I acknowledge what you're saying. So the reason that we only have, or that we have, because yes, you're right, Dean Phillips and Marianne are in, well, actually Marianne just unsuspended her campaign this week.
Yeah.
After the Michigan thing on Tuesday. That's a separate story. But, we've got these other Democratic primary candidates that some states may have on the ballot. And that's why they just cut and paste. To me, when I saw this, I was excited. I thought I was going to get some local stuff. I might have gotten to know my Liz Thunberg or whatever it is a little better prior to her knocking on my door today. And so, anyway, that News Sentinel sucks. I want some local coverage out of you. I mean, for fuck's sake.
I agree with you on that.
It's like, okay, this is cool. I mean, it's not bad because it's like, you can get down here, the candidates on the key issues. There we go. Foreign policy. That's one of my big ones. Where are the Democrats on foreign policy? Joe Biden's foreign policy priorities have largely focused on America's allies around the world. Phillips, a member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, aligns closely with Biden on foreign policy. Williamson has called for the creation of the U.S. Department of Peace, which would provide support for efforts to end conflicts, coordinate humanitarian assistance, and create a U.S. Peace Academy working with the U.S. Military Academy. Interesting. I mean, she's a little kooky. We knew that. But anyway, like, it's a good guide. It's just only for one race, which just reinstates the point that this is the only race that matters.
Right.
Which is inherently wrong. And it hurts my feelings and makes me upset. Makes me rage. Because, I mean, hell, like what would I don't know how to word what I'm about to ask here. So my weird dude here, where'd he go? My John Rose here. Like, if I didn't pay as much attention as I do, what is this? Like, what actually is this flyer? Like, if I didn't know politics to the level that I know politics, which is above average, I would say. I think that's a fair self-assessment.
Yeah.
If I didn't know politics as well as I do, which is above average, I would read this and go, is this guy trying to get me to vote for him instead of Trump? But he stands with Trump, and I don't have... Congress is not on this.
But I didn't know, are you
primary.
for or against him?
I don't understand, like, why would I vote for this guy if I could just vote for Trump anyway? Like, that's what this flyer, if I didn't know any better, which a lot of people don't, and obviously I'm not the only person that got this. I mean, it's addressed to address, so it's not like a bulk, but it's a bulk by their mailing list that they do for all the people that showed up at my door.
Right.
And so it's like, I don't understand, I just can't, it boggles my mind. It's just, I don't know. I don't get it. I'm confused. I'm lost. I'm angry about it, obviously.
Welcome to life.
Yeah. I just think to me it flabbergasts me.
Yeah. Well, kind of not second on politics. Like I said, I was listening to that podcast, Hidden Brain. There was one, I think, from maybe a couple of weeks ago. But it was interesting. They were talking about, don't remember the woman's name that was on it. I guess she's journalist of sorts. But she'd done some studies kind of talking about partisanship.
A lot for 1 week.
Huge.
Kind of talking about partisanship.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, you did. We're growing worms, sorry.
Gotcha. And they did a couple studies, kind of like asking people kind of the general question of, how would you feel if one of your offspring wanted to marry someone of the opposite political spectrum?
Uh-huh.
I think they did some kind of studies in that, but then also asked some journalists, and when they asked journalists estimated that half the U.S., would be against their kid marrying someone from the opposite party. When it was actually the studies they did, it was far below that. And kind of talked about how at times there's some, the media itself kind of draws up the politicization. But also they kind of got into why some people don't vote. They kind of talked about some things we talked about as far as, people just have other things to worry about. But also they kind of hypothesize, I think it could be some truth to it, in that people are, I don't know if I would consider myself, but, someone like yourself that is, highly involved in politics and kind of focuses a lot more on it. When, the average person sees someone like that or sees political analysts on TV, and they kind of disengage, thinking that they don't know enough as that person, so they kind of like disinvolve themselves because they're like, I don't know if I should get into this. Like, I obviously don't know enough about this.
Right. Which I think is intentional. That's what I mean.
I don't think it's intentional.
I think it is. I really do. I think. I mean, I know I've made this hypothesis a few times. I think there are exceptions to the rule. I think Becky Massey is an exception to the rule in the way she runs her office. And I think Gloria is, and I think Gloria is intentionally in a different way than Becky is. She's open to it because she's trying to show how closed it is and how slanted and bullshitty it is, like we were talking about earlier with the bannings and all that, kind of kicking out them and the Tennessee 3 and all that shit. And so, but I think, it's like, I don't know, like I can't get Elaine Davis to save my life, like why won't she talk to me? Like I am somebody who's engaged, can have probably an intelligent conversation about the things that she has to deal with on a day-to-day and actually talk issues with her. Why didn't you want to talk to me?
You burned that bridge with the Cub Scout.
I get one for an entire term for her.
That's all it takes.
I mean, I didn't do it like as far as I could. I didn't do anything overtly in front of her that she would have picked up on the fact that I think she's an idiot.
You called her out in front of a bunch of kids.
I mean, I did put her on the spot, I guess, but very, very softly and gently I put her on the spot. And then
she didn't take
when
too
she
kindly.
said I didn't like being on this spot, I just kind of let it go. I didn't press her on it, even though she was lying to the entire group of people. Where I could have, in a very logical, defensive manner, said, no, you are in charge of these things. You do vote on things that make a huge difference in all of these kids' school lives. You vote on those things all the time. I could have made that point just because at the end of the day, who does the room believe, me or her?
You.
I don't know, but I could certainly see the viewpoint. To me,
they don't know her; they know you.
But in the back of my head, I'm thinking this room just made me looked at me like, or I felt like an idiot because the room, the self-conscious part of me says this room is looking at me saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. Because she's the professional here. This is her job. This is what she does. Obviously, she knows what she's doing. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't have stood for it.
It was back there in the back of my head, but it's like it was also in a room full of kids.
Right.
It's like if it was a room full of adults, I'd be like, no, you do. If it was just the adults, yeah, I would have. I think I would have pushed that a little further.
Yeah.
But with a bunch of kids around, I'm not trying to stir up a big scene.
Right.
And plus, I didn't have any. I wasn't recording anything, so there's no value in it. You know, I could be like, "Hey, look, I trapped Lane Davis in front of a bunch of kids."
Anybody get a hot mic on that?
Let me say it. So to the point is, I don't know that it's conscious on a number of people's parts. I don't think Elaine Davis consciously avoids it. I think Eric handles her to keep her away from it when he can. And other people that are around her kind of shelter her from some of the stuff that she's not as good at, which, you know, it's practical and logical. I get that or whatever. But, you know, I don't like, it doesn't make any sense otherwise. Like, I think they know it to be complicated, because if they cared about how complicated it was, because of the people don't get involved because they're scared of the complications of it and they don't know enough about it. If they cared, they'd put some effort into trying to fix that, and they don't. Maybe that's a simplified way to try to get to where I'm going. If they gave a shit, because everybody runs on, you know, it's important, you got to get out and vote, you got to voice your opinion. It's like, no, they don't really mean that when they say it, unless they're on the losing side all the time, like the Democrats here. Like, the Democrats mean it when they say it in Knoxville. In Knox County, rather. They mean, we need you to get out and vote. The Republicans don't mean it when they say it, because they win on who's already voting. They don't need more people, because more people is more chance of people that aren't voting for them. And they know that, because it's a game, and they just play it like the game it is. It's a high-stakes game that most of us are the ones that end up losing regardless, and they're the ones that end up winning in the long term if they stick around in it long enough.
I mean, I'll make it kind of closer to akin to, you know, someone going out to a trivia night and being like, you know, I don't know a lot of trivia, so maybe I shouldn't go out and play trivia. Not quite apples to apples, but I think some people kind of see, you know, what they're watching on TV, watching, you know, different news that's talking about politics, and you see political analysts, and they're like, you know, I'm not that deep into it. I don't know that much. Like, you know, maybe I shouldn't be an informed voter. Or I shouldn't be a voter unless I'm more informed.
I mean, I could agree with that. That is a stance that I like to say.
It just kind of like turns them off as far as like, you know, I don't know these ins and outs. And, you know, some of them, it was kind of like equating it to like sports fanatics, that you have that level of people in politics, or level of interest in politics.
Right. But you also have, you know, the people that aren't really that into it, but they could still, you know, I think that was an old AC thing. It's like, you know, it's not that we're not capable. It's not that most people aren't capable of understanding the complexity of it, because you have some guy in the bar 7 drinks deep that could tell you how a cover 2 defense works while you're watching the football game, but couldn't tell you how, you know, his taxes get spent.
Right.
He's capable of understanding it. He just chooses not to, because it's not as much fun as the football game is.
Yeah.
But even the more basic version of that is maybe that is fairly accurate, and it's like, well, I just like my team. Why do you like your team? I don't know. I've always liked my team. My dad liked this team, so I like this team. And maybe it is that simple, but I don't know.
That was looking interesting. They talked about in just kind of the political discourse of, I think in her book or whatever, she equated it to, or she made the example of the show, what's it, what's the British TV show that's been on for fucking decades? Doctor Who. And how there's like super fans of that, and how there's been multiple versions of the Doctor, and how, and kind of getting into politics can kind of be like that, of kind of meeting someone else that's like that much hardcore into this thing, but they don't like a particular one, or has a favorite particular person. And kind of look at politics, and that kind of being like that kind of added tension between people that are more involved in the know in politics, that it kind of upsets them that much more, that of meeting someone, you know, assumably of the opposite political spectrum, like meeting someone else that's like that involved in it and that interested in politics, but then don't see the same things that you think.
Right. I could see that in the relationship kind of thing, is like if you're both like deep into it and you're on the opposite sides of the aisle, I can see that.
Like, you're following all the politics. How do you not see what I see?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that I get most frustrated with you about, or the inverse when we're getting in hot on something in here. It's that, like, I've made the joke a couple times. I might be crazy. Like I might literally be crazy because I see it, and that's how I see a thing, and it means all these things to me when I see it. When this headline comes out, all the different things that I've read or heard about or talked to or whatever, all the different parts and pieces go into the lens that I'm putting on this headline or whatever it is.
Right. And
it's like, how do you not see that? Like, how do you not see this thing that is screaming in my face right now? Because I don't know, like going back to no, that's not a good example because you agree with me on it. But it's like this, the House changing the rules to make it harder for these 7 or whatever 13 total fucking Democrats that are in the Tennessee House to not even get a chance to talk and all this kind of stuff. I don't, like, and probably I could get in an argument with like Randy about it if I wanted to, about how Randy's going to say, well, it's decorum and there's rules and you got to play by the rules in the room and stuff like that. It's like, I don't give a shit about the rules in the room, and I don't think they do either. The rules in the room are not democratic. The rules of the room are not what it is. And it's like, that's how I see it. And he doesn't see it that way. And I could see how if you had a couple that like if you had a parent that was super into politics, and that parent, going back to the original kind of thing, and that parent's kid was or wasn't as into politics as they are, but their significant other is super into politics on the other side of things, I could see how that could get problematic in a relationship.
Yeah.
But I think because I think the reality is, and I think the voting pans it out, is I think the reality is most people aren't into it enough that it's going to be a do or die. Like, I could see, again, we kept that football analogy, I think was pretty good on it. I could see a world where like a super Packers fan and a super Bear, or I could see where a dad of a kid who raised his kid to be a super Packers fan starts dating a Bears fan. And that dad has a problem with it.
Yeah. Like, you've been following football. You've seen all the stats. How do you not see that this is the greatest dynasty ever?
I taught you how evil those Bears and the Bears fans were and all that kind of stuff. And I could see that, but it's only because that parent in this, it's only and even if the kids aren't that into it, but it's only that the parent is that into the thing. Yeah. And I think that's why it makes sense then why the media is, because the media is by default, because that's their job.
Yeah.
So they're into the depths of it, and they could see how, like, I've talked to, because as a media person, you're going to go, well, I went out and I was interviewing like the head of the DNC, or I interviewed, this prominent Democrat in the state, or this kind of stuff, and their viewpoint and how strict and hardcore that viewpoint is from that person, and then applying, like, just not thinking too deeply on it and applying that depth of intensity about policy or politics or whatever onto anybody else that wears the banner.
Yeah.
But most people aren't that way. The voting shows that. Most and I don't know. Like, I'm kind of stuck in this one too, because I often advocate. It's like, don't vote if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, there are going to be people who vote for Herrera and vote for Kim or Liz or whatever the fuck her idiot name is, because they care about immigration so much. And it's like, well, I'm glad you care about immigration.
Yeah, follow up with them and be like, hey, what have you done about immigration today?
Right. It has, it has fuck all to do with what they're asking, right. What the job they're asking for.
That's what's mattered to you. Hold them to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, if that's important to you, that's great. That's fine. We can have discussions about why that's important to you and why does it matter and blah, 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 blah. That's all well and good. But at least take the 35 seconds to understand the job. And I will give Garrett that, even though he did kind of hint at schools and, in his fire. I will give him that as much as I've seen of his campaigning, he's talking infrastructure, he's talking growth plan, he's talking development, he's talking those things. That is in the fucking wheelhouse of the job.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that.
Maybe he's been listening.
I don't know. He did. He texted me when I said there were some other people knocking in the neighborhood. He said, "Who's been knocking in your neighborhood?" And I was like, it might have been one of your guys.
Who's on my turf?
That's right. He's but so anyway.
But I think one of the stories, or one of the studies they did, I think kind of started out with, like, I guess having someone over for dinner of the opposite party. And a lot of people were like, no, they wouldn't want that. And they kind of changed it as like, well, okay, someone would come over from the opposite party, but they're not going to talk about politics. And that's when, like, kind of level went up. And there's kind of the expectation of, like, hey, this person's heavily involved in politics. People automatically are like, oh, they're just going to talk about politics, and they're going to, like, drag the mood down, basically.
I think that's a societal problem we have at large. Because I remember, like,
I think it was more of like describing someone as, in a certain party. If you're like, hey, they're this, or hey, they're that, people all automatically jump to, I guess, their worst case scenario.
Sure.
Like, oh, they're just going to want to talk about politics if they're an avowed whatever party.
But I think that is an underlying overall societal issue, is that we are taught to avoid it. We were taught to avoid to have the conversation with the enemy, or whatever you want to call it. Like, I remember the early bar days, like when I was just a little idiot trying to bartend and make some money or whatever. You know, shit happens. The fight goes down, all this different stuff, and you know, the managers that have been there longer, or the bartender that's been there longer. You know, like the rule is like no religion, no politics. If you hear people start talking religion and they're having a good time, you tell them to stop right now. Doesn't matter if they're having a good time right now, because eventually it'll get there. And it's like, okay, you know, and I followed the rule. It's like people talking about politics at the bar, like, hey, you know, I appreciate you guys are interested in this or whatever. Let's not do that. It always ends up going bad somewhere, whether it's between you two or somebody else overhears whatever you're talking about and they have a different, it just always gets there. And so I never had another experience with it getting there because I always stopped it. And I think that's a problem. And I wish I hadn't done that in hindsight. I don't really regret it by any means. I don't fucking care that much, but I think that's a problem we have societally, that we can't, one, that it devolves into violence or some sort of escalation to a point where it needs to be intervened upon in the bar setting, which is its own problem.
Right.
But we need to be able to do it. You know, this country was founded in bars. You know, we need to be able to talk to each other about politics and compromise. And I think that's another thing too. I think that's another thing that we have societally weeded out, is the idea of compromise. That's certainly how our federal government works. There is no compromise anymore. It's ours, or it's us, or it's whoever's the party in control, or nothing.
Don't give an inch.
Yeah, you know, it's like this idea that, like, well, I don't know, something's going on, and what's the new Speaker Johnson?
Yeah,
you know, Speaker Johnson. Somebody's talking in the background about maybe, you know, that no confidence vote and getting a new speaker in, and it's like there's 200 Democrats. You know, you need all 212, 217, something like that. You need 217 votes to get something into majority, right?
Yeah.
Well, 150 of the Republicans are going to vote for this guy again. Well, 204 of the Republicans are going to vote for this guy again, but 6 aren't. Give me 6 Democrats that just want the government to do something, to be able to do work.
Right. So
no, we can't, you know, because I won't get elected again because I voted for a Republican Speaker of the House, and that ruins my chances of re-election. So it's better that this thing doesn't work and I don't tarnish my reputation. It's like, well, like then we can't do anything. And you know, there's part of me that likes that better anyway. But
part of that's a little bit of mudslinging and just kind of digging up dirt. It's like, oh well, you know, back on April 1st and blah 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 blah.
It is. I agree with you.
They voted this way on this.
I agree with you 100%. But again,
like, yes, I was trying to cross the aisle and,
right,
and get legislation passed. Right.
And that goes back to what we were talking about 2 minutes ago, is that feeds on the fact that person in a campaign, that other person in a campaign can throw that piece of mud out. And the general populace doesn't know the backstory on it to say, yeah, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world that they voted with a Republican on an issue. It's not the end of the world that they voted for a Republican speaker. Because if they hadn't voted for their Republican speaker, we'd had another 2 weeks and 75 rounds of voting for some other rando that nobody's ever heard of to come out of the woodwork to be the new Speaker of the House. Because the one guy that was actually probably the best chance the Republicans had at having a functional House, they kicked out already.
Right.
Speaking of kicking people out, McConnell's taking a break. Gonna hit the old snooze button here on his leadership role, at least.
Yeah, but I think he announced he's stepping down in November, right?
Yeah, it's a leadership role. I think personally,
leadership role, right?
Personally,
he hadn't said he's not going to run again.
Personally, I think this is a play on Biden's age. I think they're going to talk about it. He's like, yeah, I'm getting a little old. It's time for me to step out. You know, I'm going to finish my term out, but I'm going to step out of leadership. You know, it's a little too much at my age and stuff like that. And I think they're going to play that up. And if Biden wins, he's going to come right back into leadership. If Biden loses, then he's going to go quietly into the night because he did his job. Because they're the same fucking age.
It's quite 3D chess, but
I think. Well, again, I often give credit where credit is not.
Biden just passed his physical.
I often give credit where credit is not due. So, okay, so we called. Let me make sure this is working. I called Randy Pace in because he's going to explain to me who this John Rose character is and why it matters. So, yeah, we already talked about it a little bit on the show, but anyway, Randy Pace, everybody. How have you been, Randy?
Hey, I've been great, Seth. Good to hear you, man. It's
Good
been
to
a
hear
while.
from you. It's been a busy time. I got a new store. I'm trying to put a big festival together in the old Happy Holler. Try to bring back the Happy to the Holler, and been super busy with work and stuff like that. Still pounding on episodes. Haven't been doing as many interviews as I want to be doing, but the schedule has not been friendly. And plus, all my party chairs that would bother talking to me have moved on. You're off doing. You're like the immediate or the third immediate chair now, and Matt moved to North Carolina, and so everybody that was fun is no longer party lead.
So nobody will talk to you.
I don't know.
Well, that's not right.
I haven't tried the new chair since Herrera left, but Herrera didn't talk to me when he was there. That's for sure. I haven't reached out to him for this campaign.
That's not right. That's not right.
Well, I'm an acquired taste, as they say, so I can live with it. I'll keep working on it. I'll get there. It'll be good. So anyway. So yeah, I sent you the picture of it. I got this flyer in the mail that says "Vote Congressman
I saw that.
John Rose for statewide delegate at large for Trump." So, like, I understand the procedural whatever of the way this works in Tennessee, as far as functionally, at the end of the day, these delegates are going to go to the state convention, right? And they're going to cast their vote on my behalf for whomever. In the bylaws of the state party, whatever, it doesn't really matter who the delegates are. At the end of the day, if let's be honest, the reality will be when Trump gets the most votes in the primary, regardless, he's going to get all the delegate votes accordingly. We don't have the faithless delegate system in the state. You have to vote for who the.
So what did you need me for?
I don't understand why. I just the idea that he did. Why is a delegate campaigning? Period. That's what blows my mind.
So, about it. Because they get to be cheerleaders, because they get an invitation to the national convention where the candidate is nominated. They are the official representative from the state.
Oh.
So they get to be the official cheerleader for the party's nomination at the national convention.
All right. So 2 questions.
Sure.
One, is that his wife or his daughter?
That I don't know. I don't know John Rose, and that's the simplest answer I have for that.
2
I don't know.
Is my hypothesis, and correct me if I'm wrong, because and Glenn Jacobs is a delegate as well, and now that you explain the cheerleader part, that makes total sense with the recent activity that Glenn Jacobs has been doing on the Trump campaign. Also, the rumor that Glenn is probably going to run for mayor. My take on this John thing was that
Glenn is mayor. You mean governor?
I'm sorry, governor. Yes, thank you.
That's all right.
My take on this John Rose thing was that he may be looking at a statewide run for something in the not so distant future, and this is a way to get his name over here in East Tennessee where he isn't, because he's got campaign funds to burn. Would be my guess.
Well, all right. So, and that was my deal. So when I looked at the flyer, I didn't get I might have gotten a flyer. Didn't look at it. I probably circle filed it, but I looked at the flyer you sent me and I read it, as much as I could on my iPhone. I'm tech challenged, but I identified John Rose anyway. My first thought was, is this a John Rose for Congress flyer, because they have to run every 2 years. He's in this cycle and his district will vote for him or not vote for him. Or is this a delegate flyer? And next question being, who paid for it? And it was just confusing for me.
Okay, you're all right. You mean to say it's paid for by John Rose for Tennessee, so it's his campaign money. It's not a PAC or anything weird like that.
Well, yeah, if I'm going to donate money to a guy, if I'm donating, what was the donation for? To run for Congress or run for delegate? I'm confused.
You're preaching to the choir on this one, because we get I was complaining. This was a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago now, that it was.
We've talked about the delegate system before.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about this. The campaign donation weirdism thing is what I was going with, because what's her name? She's the squad girl from New York.
Cortez.
Yeah, she had donated a bunch of money from her campaign to somebody running in a different state race because she was out of cycle. And I was
Right.
like, I'd be
Well,
pissed. I'd be pissed if I donated to her and she's donating to somebody else with my money.
Well, yeah, and I try and I have made campaign donations. I try to make them wisely.
But do you do it with your money, or do you do it with campaign money that you got when you were?
I would never spend campaign money on another. If somebody gave me the money to run for office, I wouldn't spend it on anything other than that. And I've seen people give it away for, every Tom, Dick, and Harry crazy thing that comes down the pipe. Yeah, I
gotcha.
Different states have different campaign finance laws.
They do indeed. So, I did some reading, tried to figure some of this out, but then I talked to the Compass guys when I was doing their show earlier today about it, and then we were hypothesizing all the different ideas on why this makes any sense at all for this flyer to come to my
doesn't
house.
Make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
Doesn't make sense to me at all.
For whatever reason, I am in the database for both parties as a potential, and so I get all the flyers.
That's
all the time.
not a bad thing.
I think it's hilarious. I just think it's
Swanger.
funny. I think it's fun, and it keeps my mailbox flowing, and the kids like to go to the mailbox and get mail out. So
yeah, I think you know where I stand. And again, for me, it's less about party and more about good government. I think that being a target for anybody for public office, if they're coming to you and you're getting more of it, that tells me you're more engaged. I think many people should, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Let's not go down
I'll
that
blow
road.
smoke up my own ass all day long because
Right.
we were just talking earlier about how I know I'm more informed than most people on this.
Well, there you go. You hit I didn't even have to say it.
I know.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I have no shame, no shame whatsoever.
Well done.
And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Well, I don't know. I've got to go primary on Tuesday. I'll see how it goes. It'll be fun. I don't.
So I did early
break the
vote.
law.
Oh, are you really again?
Yeah, every time I vote in a primary, I'm breaking the law. I'm not bona fide with no parties.
I'm not sure that they're ever going to unbake that cake. And what I mean by that is the every state writes its own election law, and generally speaking, the laws get written for two reasons. Attorneys make money, and the person that convinced the most people that their way is the best way gets to write the laws. So it's nonsense. It truly is.
I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth. I know we've talked about it.
I believe in primaries.
I would love for your party to go ahead and close the primaries and make it. I mean, I would miss all the mailers, I suppose, but
no, because you're already on the list. You're on the list for perpetuity. It doesn't matter. I got news for you, brother. That ship sailed.
Good luck getting off you.
Well, then, at least make the front porch conversations more fun when they come on primaries. When they come knock on my door for primaries, it's like, I can't vote for you. Why not?
I'm not on the list.
Because they close the
take me off
primaries.
your list.
If you hadn't done it a couple episodes ago, I had I had Timmy Burchett, talked to him for a little bit, and I joked with him. I joked with him about breaking the law about my voting record.
And what did he?
And he's like,
What did he say?
like, we have open primaries in this state. I was like, not really, sir. It's like. I'm technically, it's a Class C misdemeanor or whatever. They can never enforce it because the way the proof system and all that when you get caught is so
realize
ridiculous.
that there was some more language and legislation being proposed this session that was kind of going to address that, right?
This
You know
session?
that.
No, I hadn't seen it in this session. I know they did the one last session where they added the posters, so the posters are going to be in the polling place. I'm going to take. Are you allowed? You're not allowed to take pictures inside, right?
No.
Damn. I was going to take a selfie with the picture while I grab my Republican primary illegally.
Well, all right. So now I can set you up. Actually, here's what you do. Don't worry about taking a picture while it's in the polling place. You just want a picture of the sign, right?
No, I want a picture of me in the polling place with the sign. That's the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean,
yeah, because
I'll email Chris Davis and ask him if I can have one of them when they're done with it. And I'll put one. I'll put it on the wall here in the studio.
Actually, I think the election commission puts up samples at the election commission. Maybe Chris Davis will let you go in there and you can take a picture.
I didn't go see him in his office. That's a good call. I like that. That might be a good.
You've never been to his office?
I've never been to his office. I hate going.
His
downtown,
office is
man.
right around the corner from my house.
I thought they're not in City County. I thought they were in the City County building.
Why? No, well, let me set that up. Let's you and I both go see him.
Okay.
Seriously.
I mean, you don't have to because he's listening right now. He'll email me and ask me when we want to do it.
Well, all right. If he doesn't, let me set it up. I'll walk in. I'll make I'll walk in. I'll make an excuse to excuse myself, and you guys just have a ball. Laugh at Randy.
I mean, I like Chris a lot. I've had Chris on 2 or 3 times.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
He might be. Him and Lauren Ryder are tied for the most guests here. You might be too.
Really?
Now that I'm thinking about it.
No. I don't think I've been here that much.
You were only 3. You did 3 or 4.
At least.
That's
so hey,
check. I haven't that many repeats.
So this wasn't my idea when I said we need to do this again, but I'm happy to throw in. Listen, I got a couple of subjects that I'll blow by you, but I'll do it and I'll let you mull it over, and we'll do it at the Pirate Bar or something like that. How's that?
Nice plug for me. I love it.
Hey, brother, just so all your listeners know, I'm a fan of Seth Barber. I think what Seth Barber is doing, every American should be doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Plain and simple, man. I'm not kidding.
Well,
maybe not everything you do. I don't know everything you do. Let me wait. I got to back up. Here, is there a disclosure that we can sign or something?
I don't know. I was thinking of like a couple Rodney Dangerfield jokes or something like that. Right? Anyway, hit me with a couple subjects. We'll see.
All right, brother. I will.
Like right now, or? Oh, not right now. I misunderstood him. I thought he was going to tell me and then come back to it. So, anyhow, that was Randy Pace, everybody. He is just as confused on why I got this stupid mailer as I am. So, glad we got that out.
Is that a good sign or bad sign?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good sign, at least from your perspective. Like, I'm not crazy. That why the fuck did I get this?
Right, it's weird. I mean, I was talking to Scott and Jesse about it when I was on their show, and Scott says he's like, I've never heard of that ever happening.
Right.
Like, I've never seen that happen before.
Well, I think Randy made a good point. He's like, it's basically people trying to promote themselves to be the cheerleader and get that.
I didn't think about
it
going. Yeah, because they'll go to the national convention. I didn't think about that part.
Yeah. I saw something. I don't know what exactly it was, but it was basically like, I guess Trump had put out to people voting in the District of Columbia. I think it was like, I assume it was people that were involved in politics. It was basically like, hey, since it's on record, I guess, of who you vote for and et cetera, or if you go and vote. They're basically like, hey, if you don't show up for the primaries, like, don't come calling. They're basically like, hey, you better go out and vote for me, or else.
That's where
after the fact, don't be calling looking for a job.
Right. That's where these accusations of, not accusations. The thing that Liz sent that said he voted in Democratic primary.
Right.
I mean, you can pull what ballot you took, not what you put on the ballot.
Right.
In primaries, not in generals. There's nothing they can do on it.
Yeah, I think this was all just about like primaries.
Right. But they can pull whether or not you did the general or not.
Right. And I think that was part of it too. Like, you better get out there and vote, or else don't be calling asking me for a job later on.
That's fair, I guess. I don't know, because they can't. I mean, he can't prove that they did or didn't vote for him.
Right.
But that, I don't know. Going back a little bit to where before we had Randy there for a second is, I think. I really, really do think that it's that they, to use a Randy phrase, it's all smoke and mirrors. No, that's not a Randy phrase. That's an AC phrase. I think he said it too. But it's smoke and mirrors.
It's a common phrase.
It's keeping it. I think they want to keep it complicated, just procedurally complicated.
We were talking about Biden before Randy came on.
What were we talking about Biden? Oh, we were talking about McConnell being old, and I think it's a play. And you're right. I probably give more credit than credit's due. He did freeze like 2 times on camera. But that's the only time it ever happens. That was the funny thing. It's like the only time it's ever happened is when he happened to be in front of a camera. It doesn't happen in his office or anywhere else.
I mean, odds are it's probably happened before.
Right. I'm just saying that was the from his like aides and stuff. It's like it's the only time it's ever happened. Is the 2 times everybody in the world saw it. It's the only time it's ever happened. It's like no way. Come on.
Does get on the camera a lot because he is the Senate Minority Leader currently, but he was the Senate Majority Leader.
Yep. So I don't know. Good riddance. I'd like to see him gone. I want to see Nancy Pelosi gone. They're all too goddamn old. It's not even necessarily the age thing, really. It's.
He's had some good points that I can appreciate him for.
I mean, sure. He's not. I'm sure there are parts of his career that I would agree with, different parts and pieces and things that he's done.
Yeah.
But there's a there's a line between like institutional knowledge and we need to move on. And there is a goodly sum, because we talked about this. This has been a while ago, but I remember we looked it up, and it was like the average.
Look for average age.
No, we did that too, but I was talking about it was like the average.
I sat there and went through every single fucking congressional person and did the math.
It was the average career.
Yeah.
Of a federal House or Senate.
That's what I looked at.
And it's very short. It's like a term and a half or something like that on average or something. Yeah. It was like a term for senators and like a term and a half for Congress or vice versa or something like that. Which
so we have that handful that throws off.
Which means the average is even the real average is even lower. The real average is like a term. It's just you have these Pelosi's and Feinsteins and McConnells and whatevers that have been there for fucking ever.
Yeah.
That bring the average up. And it's like, okay. To me, that really says how little, because I would guess that one of the reasons why their terms are so short is that the people that do it don't feel like it's worth the effort. They feel like it's a lot of work to get the job, and you don't get to do anything. You don't get to be what you want. You don't get to be Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You just get piled into the machine, and the machine just turns you out. And I'm not going through all this. I don't want to deal with the public scrutiny. They're going to put some other person in this seat right behind me anyway that's going to not do anything except what they're told.
Well, I'd say there's a good bit in that first term. It's literally a sink or swim. Can you be effective?
Yeah. No.
And then, maybe people after one term, they're like, all right, we elected you in. You haven't done anything. You have nothing to show for what you've done.
I think it's you if you,
or maybe they just weren't able to garner enough for the
or they're not
the
good
following
fundraisers.
campaign. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. They weren't able to raise enough money for that second campaign. It's like, hey, you didn't do anything to get your name recognition up, so now.
Well, I think the effective is I think the effective is a choice term.
I would like to think that voters are looking at effectiveness of a candidate, but yeah, it's hard to say.
But not even the voters, I don't know, just in the personal sense, if I was that person, do I feel like I was effective? And how would you,
right?
And how, and I think the answer would, for a junior congressman or something like that, would be no, I'm not effective. Things that I voted on, maybe even things that I put on the floor passed, but it wasn't because I did anything. It wasn't because it was important or whatever. It was because McConnell told me to, and I put it up, and McConnell did what he did, and then it went through.
I mean, there's definitely a compounding effect upon the length of time that you can be in Congress or in Senate. That you are able to make, that many more connections, or get onto another committee. Yeah. Or get in touch with other people that get you, more connections, basically.
Right. But that doesn't, but going back to the, are you being effective? I think that's an interesting term to kind of break down. Because you personally effective as the person, are you being effective for your constituents? Did you go with intent to be effective? What do your constituents consider effective?
Well, that's basically what they run on. They're like, elect me so I can go do A, B, C, D, E, etc.
Right, but I don't think the average voter expects it. They don't expect you to be effective.
I think the average voter does.
I think that
they think that, like, I elected you to go do something.
Maybe they expect it, but they accept the fact that you won't be. Maybe is a better way to say it. I think they expect because I think if you go and you're not effective at getting any of the things that you said you were going to do, you could play the other team screwed me over every time I tried to do anything card. You need to put me back in. I was almost finished doing it. Whatever.
Put me back in, coach.
You know, if you want to keep the job, that your lack of effectiveness is not a negative in elections, because you can spin it very easily into why you weren't effective, and you can put that excuse out there. And I don't think people take that as okay, fine.
Right, I was about to say, I don't know how many people would buy that.
I think no, I think people would buy that option. I think people would be like, oh yeah. I mean, you know, how many people vote for Gloria Johnson over and over and over again for that same district over and over again? She's not an effective congressperson. She's not. She can't be. It's impossible.
I mean, maybe for what they're looking for. They're like, hey, she proposed a bill for this that I agree with, and it failed. And then I could see that as effective, but I mean, she's at least trying to make an effect. It just hasn't gone through.
Right. And so, but on this,
right, still be considered,
or it's considered effective. And I could, you know, in the other version that we were talking about before, it's like I tried, I did what I could. Is that effective? Is that effective for you as the voter? I tried to put this bill through that was going to help us get this thing that you guys are talking about, but
you've talked about bills that, you know, Gloria has put or has proposed that has failed, but then all of a sudden, somebody from the other aisle does almost a mirror or something, like with slightly different, and that ends up getting passed.
Yeah. And
so you could almost see they're introducing those ideas and trying to push forward those ideas.
But I mean, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, who is paying enough attention that can actually,
right?
You know, sure, Gloria's going to say, yeah, remember that I put this bill up and they killed it, but then they put the exact same bill up by Republican X from wherever and they passed it, and she can say that, and her voters that voted for her the first time would be like, yeah, but you know, that doesn't. It's.
I mean, you could try it to an extent. You put out her proposed bill, the bill that got passed, and be like, tell me the difference.
Sure. But
this is what I tried to pass.
Who's going to read it, you know, and take the time to read it and do that? That's what I'm saying. You know, and then what local coverage we do have in the news isn't going to, it doesn't get the viewership to bother for the newspaper to run it, and that's why we don't talk about the newspaper here. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know who's going out and voting. It's such a dismal dismal
old
amount.
People. That's part of the reason why we have all these old people in Congress and shit. Like there's been studies on it. This is what they were talking about.
Oh, they're the same age as me. Yeah, they should be
or older. There's people that there are you know, our parents' age people out there that have that you know, like, okay, so for an example, an apples to oranges comparison here, the first time we had a teacher for our kids on Meet the Teacher Day that was younger than me, it took me back a little bit.
Yeah,
like it just kind of like, whoa,
right,
you're a child. You're teaching my child. This is weird. And there are people that vote that way. That, like, the idea of you being younger than me is not okay.
Right.
And even to the point of there are people who are older that want to vote for somebody older than them. Because they're you know, I'm not that smart. They're older and wiser than me. And that's part of their voting habits. And that's part of the reason why I think we have so many. Because, I mean, like, Reagan was...
I think some stick to just kind of like the status quo. As in, like, things haven't been terrible, things haven't been great.
Sure.
But
there's a big thing about Reagan.
At least haven't gone down as far as, you know, the McConnell thing, as far as someone that's gotten elected numerous times.
Reagan was 67 in his first campaign, or his re-election campaign, something like that. And that was a big controversial thing at the time.
Really?
At 67, holy shit, he's old. God, I wish we could get a 67-year-old president.
He's supposed to be getting retirement funds right now.
You know, and so, like, but I think that's I think that, like, I think that's the truth. The truth is that old people vote and they don't vote for kids. And, you know, when you get to, like, I do it, like, I see a 25-year-old in there, that is a child to me.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, like, Garrett's probably a couple of years younger than me. Not a bunch, but, like, Herrera, you know, he's got plenty of political issues in and of itself, but he's like 27. And I won't lie and pretend like that's not at least in the back of my head somewhere. Now, I don't have to really consider that as part of my problem with him because he wants to, you know, get rid of all the illegal immigrants in Knox County. Not that he can do that. So I don't have to think about his age as a factor for why I won't vote for him. I'm not going to vote for him because he's lying on his paperwork to everybody. And so I think that's part of it, and I think generationally, I think historically it's always been true that older people vote more often. But I think that older has gotten older and the younger has gotten even less. Like at the same time, you know what I'm saying? So like older people being 40 plus used to be the majority of voting, and now it's older people being 60 plus being the majority of the voters. So like that what we call older bracket has slid up.
Yeah.
And so the 40 who were the 20, 30-year-olds when the 40, 50-year-olds were the big voting bloc, those 20, 30-year-olds aren't growing up to vote. They're still not voting in their 40s and 50s.
I was trying to remember, I think Vermont,
and then the 20-year-olds are just like whatever.
I think Vermont may have just passed a state law that's allowing 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in this upcoming election.
That's ridiculous. That is so dumb. Okay. I mean, it's dumb. I mean, it's obvious, and it's obviously political. It's obviously partisan. That in and of itself is dumb.
I mean, in the grander national fabric of it, I don't see how it changes much. Vermont doesn't have a lot of electoral votes.
No, it doesn't. But
it could maybe change their state house a little bit. I mean, I could see it on the side that, I mean, you can make that argument, I guess, going down to damn near any age that
it affects them.
Right, it affects them.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you want to play that argument, it's like, well, California law affects me, so I should get to vote.
But I mean,
I should get to vote in California stuff.
There are some states that allow you to emancipate yourself. Emancipate yourself at like 16.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with it per se, but you got to pick a fucking number. I don't want to go back into that thing. I'm just saying, if 16, if you're smart enough to emancipate yourself and you're smart enough to vote, then you should be smart enough for all the other things that adults get to have. So if 16's voting, then 16's drinking. I'm good with it. Then you can go to war and you can do all the other stuff too. But I'm just saying, like, I'm picking the extremes on purpose. But that just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, what is the argument? What is the argument for why you want to lower the voting age?
I'm not sure what exactly their rationale behind it was.
Maybe if we get them voting younger while they're still in public school, so they don't. It's like.
Well, I mean, there's states that allow you to marry at 16.
Again, that I'm going to roll back to that same argument over and over again.
But I would consider that a much higher, I guess, commitment than the ability to go out and vote.
Okay.
As much as we talk
again,
about
I don't want to. I don't want to relitigate my argument for the age of consent being the dumbest thing ever, because it's inconsistent and illogical. Like I agree, it doesn't make any sense. But again, just to try to stay on point and not get me arguing age of consent. I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I know you don't want to do it either. But if you're a lawmaker in Vermont and you're proposing this, like, what is the impetus for it? Like, what is your goal in it? I mean, my assumption is Vermont's a blue state anyway, so it's not like they need more voters to vote for their Democrats. Like, what's?
That's what I was saying. It's not going to have a grand effect upon the national landscape.
I would think it is I would think that would be trying to use it as a test market.
I mean, it may just straight up be constituents voicing their opinion that we would like to vote at 16. We would like our voice to be heard. We're in high school.
Yeah, but if a group
of laws you guys are passing are affecting us, or are going to affect us 2 years from now, when you guys are still, going back and forth on, stipulations upon a certain bill that gets passed, like, we'd like to go ahead and have our voices heard now.
Right. But I think like you implied already, is you could make that argument all the way down to, 10 or 11.
As far as how it affects them, but I could also see the argument that I can vote on something now at 16 that may become law 2 years from now or something, or voting someone in that could pass a law.
Right, they're going to be my state senator when I'm 18, so I should be able to vote for them beforehand. They're going to represent me when I come of age. But then that's just, I mean, but that would be.
I thought that was the most logical thing that came to my mind at that moment.
I'm just saying, like, but I get where you're going with it, but then it's the same slippery slope, because then a 14-year-old could say, well, when I get to my voting age of 16, that guy's already going to be in there, so I should have gotten to vote for him too. And then a 12-year-old, and then you just go down by twos until you're at.
As far as like getting to vote, I guess it's. Thinking more and what we see is the legislative process and how bills have to be passed on maybe consecutive sessions or et cetera.
Oh, that did remind me about that.
We talked about a couple different bills that like have to get passed and then
constitutional amendment, state constitutional amendment, yeah, because that would remind me on the House bill to ban reappointing lawmakers. Somebody in legal said, you might have to make this a constitutional issue. You might not be able to do this as just a regular bill. It's basically you're taking the right of citizens, you're taking the rights away from people to vote, and they have the right to vote on whether or not you're allowed to take that away from them. It was kind of the argument that was very short part of the paragraph, but it was in there. But yeah, I mean, the constitutional amendment process in the state level constitution is a long process. It's a minimum of like 6 years.
There was a separate story that talked about reinstating voting rights. I want to say Tennessee was lumped into one of the states.
For felons.
For felons, yeah.
They
kind of like
we talked about that. Oh, they finally killed that guy in Texas. Sorry to subject jump on you.
Which guy?
Oh, no, I'm assuming it's the guy that they failed to kill last time. The death penalty case. I saw it and thought of you.
Texas.
Yeah. Texas.
Alabama? The guy that, I think that happened that night with the nitrous gas. There was a guy in Idaho that they were trying to execute.
Texas executed a guy yesterday.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, I didn't mean to jump off topic on you like that. What were you saying before that?
I'm not sure now.
Shit. Constitutional amendments at the state level.
Oh, no, we were talking about felons.
Yeah.
And how...
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I guess it was alleged that Tennessee was making it that much harder and, I guess, trying to disenfranchise voting and trying to, I guess, voter restrictions, basically, adding more and more layers of restricting on, a former felon trying to get their voting rights back. That apparently part of that was you also... I think it may have been a Tennessee law, but you also had to have, I guess, ability to carry a weapon. And basically, like your gun rights would also have to be reinstated for you to be able to vote.
I'm good with that. I'm good with both those things. What we've talked about, I think we've talked about it before. To me, it should be ex-felon. You had a felony. You went to jail. You served your time.
Right.
The end of your sentence, you should be reinstated as a full citizen. You should have the rights of a full citizen.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense otherwise, because then what did we do in that window of time between when you were convicted of the crime and served your sentence out?
All right, I agree with you there.
You have paid your debt to society.
But apparently there's been an added thing that, I don't know, maybe you got convicted for a gun crime, so even after you've been released, I don't know, maybe you're still under that window of you're not supposed to carry a weapon.
I think that's inappropriate. But then I think or that's part of your sentence. Then so you haven't finished your sentence yet. If you get convicted of a gun crime, and you serve 10 years in prison and then a fixed period of time post.
Oh, let's say they got released on good behavior or whatever. They were supposed to serve 5 years. They served 4, got released.
Then you should go vote. You got released.
Right.
You served your time.
But then technically, I don't know, they should still have 1 more year that they're not supposed to carry a weapon.
I mean,
according to their original sentence.
You could certainly, okay, maybe.
I think that's what...
On the very specific of the technicality, okay.
I'm assuming that's what the article, I think, was kind of pointing at. But it was more in the idea of you've been released. But I guess you
haven't
it's
finished
just
your
that
sentence.
extra. Well, it's as far as like you having to have that extra hurdle of trying to just have your voting rights.
I mean, right. Well, the fact that you have to apply to get them back is ridiculous in and of itself. Period. Full stop. Like, you shouldn't have to apply when you finish when you finish the terms of your sentence. You should have your full rights restored.
Right.
The fact that you have to apply to get your rights back is ridiculous in and of itself.
I think there's some states that still say
Most states you
convicted
have to.
felons.
Yeah, and most
It's
states
just convicted felons. Period. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you've served your time. It's
Right.
just like if you are a convicted felon.
Right. And I think that's wrong. You if you want to label well, no, I mean that's grammatically true, I suppose. You are a convicted felon. You were convicted of a felony. You are a convicted felon, but you served your time.
Right.
And
You served your quote unquote debt to society.
right, and your debt is paid. Your rights are restored. That it should be automatic.
Right.
The fact that you have to go through any process to get it back is ridiculous.
Right. And that was the in line of argument that I think that's what this article is trying to make.
Right, but most states, I mean,
They've served the time, but it was more of like the state or whatever it was. Don't remember exactly what state. I want to say Tennessee was lumped into it, but adding in like more and more hurdles to try and get.
And I believe most states you have to go through an application process to get it back. You do. It's not. I don't think that any states are automatic. But I could be wrong.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure most states you have to go through a process. You have to apply. It takes time for you to get your right to vote back, or any other. There could be other specific rights in that, but I think that I find that to be general bullshit. And it should be stopped. They must stop it. Ooh. Time out. So, anyway, yeah, I think that's a wrongism that needs to be corrected. It's a problem. Thanks for any pace calling, and that was fun. That was not how that call was going to end. I was very confused on how that phone call ended. But I'll take it. I will take the fact that somebody else who is politically engaged is confused as shit about my thing as well. What else do we want to cover? Oh, the bridge is back on the table.
Which one?
The
The
footbridge.
UT? Oh, okay.
They've reapplied for this year's version of the grant.
I saw the stadium was on schedule or whatever.
Yep, stadium's on schedule. The bridge is happening. They're going to use some TIF financing to help pay for the bridge. Knoxville taxpayers' dollars at work. Did you see the work they're doing at the Fort Dickerson?
So they were working on it. It was getting closed temporarily.
9 months. It's going to be done for the rest of the year.
I didn't realize they called that quarry something else.
Yeah.
Like the Fort Dickerson blah 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 quarry.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, there's a name for that?
I didn't know you could get down there until a couple years ago. And we went and floated around and played.
No, I mentioned it from the. It went from the overlook. We tried to walk it one day years ago.
Yeah.
But from like the overlook of where you park, going up into Fort Dickerson, I guess before you drive all the way up into Fort Dickerson, but as you go into Fort Dickerson Park, there was a little overlook
Right.
over that quarry.
Right. But you get down there from the other side, from Sevier Avenue or something like that. Not
Right.
Sevier Avenue, but
Yeah, we tried to blaze a trail that just never got upkept by the city or whatever, which I don't blame them because that was a hell of a trail.
yeah. But yeah, we went down there once or twice a couple years ago. It was all right. It's scary. Like there's something weird about that. Like I can swim in the ocean and not freak out. But the idea that that thing is like super deep. But yeah, they're supposed to be putting like a floating beach in.
What?
There's going to be like a big thing that floats around in the middle that you can like just kind of swim up on and chill. Go jump off some rocks, all the good stuff. But the most important thing is bathrooms. There will be bathrooms. All right, you sent me this.
Was it ever one? Oh, no, it was the article I was just talking about. I didn't expect you to like read through it. I figured this was for later.
Pope Tennessee's voting rights restoration change. Okay, I'll look at it later.
Yeah.
So that brings us to
One pulled up. Oh,
hit me.
I haven't one pulled up yet.
Do another snake in the pants.
Oh,
So I can make
shit.
dick jokes.
Got a python in my pants.
I'm gonna puff on in my pants. Just all right. If you don't want to get all bent out of shape, don't bring politics. Don't make it a governmental news of the weird. If there's any government in it, I'm gonna get mad at it.
snake in the pants, a political thing?
No, it was the one after that where I got all pissy about the proper pronunciation of Concord.
Oh.
Because it does, that bothers me. It does bother me. I'm sorry. It's a waste of fucking time. It's a distraction. It's smoke and mirrors. It's to get you thinking about some stupid shit instead of paying attention to what they're actually doing. Especially if there's no teeth.
So we got a French newspaper that only publishes on February 29th.
That's pretty fun. Oh yeah, happy. What'd you do for Leap Day? Anything fun, exciting?
Hell no, it worked.
I did too.
I read an article about there was somebody that proposed it was like a 30-day month calendar or something, but it was basically like all the months were the same amount of days.
Right.
And then you would have a leap week or something every like 6 years, something like that.
Oh, that's not.
But like, yeah, it would be even kind of goofy. But I was talking to somebody about this the other day that like we had this shit figured out as far as like the literal timing and mathematics of it, like hundreds, if not like over 1,000 years ago.
And this
as
is the
far
best
as
we
like
come up with on a calendar?
No, I mean as far as well, I mean we were going off of the Gregorian calendar or whatever.
Right.
But I mean we figured out that hey, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson that was talking about it.
Yeah, I've seen this one.
And like, hey, we figured out that like every so many years we need to have a leap day, but then we also figured out that every 67 years or whatever we wouldn't do that leap day.
Right. Every.
But I mean, we figured it out.
Right, it's every
very precisely.
It's every 5 leap years. You skip leap day.
Yeah, because I want to say we did one not too long ago.
Yeah, 2020. Sorry,
what was it?
2020 was a unleap year.
Yeah,
it is in the 4-year calendar,
but
it doesn't get a leap day because the Earth travels around the sun in 364.25 days or something, whatever it is. But it's actually 0.2525 days or 0.2. What do you say? It's 0.2475 days.
Yeah, sure.
And so every 4 years, you get a little bit just short of a day ahead. They throw the day back in there, and so you're just a little bit over. And then every 20 years, all that little bit overage adds up to 1 day, and you take it back. That's the math.
Oh, shit.
Oh. Shit.
At the Florida Man games, big crowds cheer competitors evading police, wrestling over beer.
Please read on. Read on. Read on. Read
Didn't
on.
realize this was a thing.
I love it.
They rose up by the dozens across Florida. Caricatured. I'm
sober tonight, everybody. That's why I can still speak. Don't get mad at Sam.
Competitors in tank tops and cut-off shorts for a showdown that treats evading police and wrestling over beer like Olympic sports.
I love it. Own it. You got to own that stuff, man. That makes it great.
Sure.
I like it.
Promoted as the most insane athletic showdown on earth.
I like it.
The Florida Man Games poke fun at the state's reputation for bizarre stories that involve brawling, drinking, gunfire, reptile wrangling, and other antics, carrying a risk of time in jail or intensive care.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So whoever writes these are great.
That is how you own it.
Yeah,
that's the Scruffy City thing. That's the Knoxville Scruffy City thing. Like Scruffy used to be like a pejorative for Knoxvillians.
So games kicked off Saturday with Star Spangled Banner played on electric guitar. Then spectators sipping canned beers behind metal barricades cheered and frequently shouted explicitives as a dozen teams battled in contests inspired by real events from America's most surreal state.
I love it.
Someone won the first event, wolfing down a plate loaded with barbecue pork and sausage a fraction of a second before his nearest competitor. He chugged a beer to celebrate. I've lived in Florida my entire life. They're calling these events. I'm calling this fucking Tuesday afternoon. I'm guessing it was literally just in parentheses, expletive.
Expletive deleted. Expletive deleted.
He meant fucking Tuesday.
That's
afternoon.
amazing. I will be doing some research on the YouTube later tonight.
Let's see, one event had contenders dueling in a muddy water and inflatable pool, pummeling each other with weapons made from pool noodles and duct tape. Another was theft simulation relay, in which competitors raced while toting a pair of bicycle, copper pipes, and catalytic converters.
Oh, where did they get the catalytic converters? Those are hard to come by. They probably had to steal them to do the show.
Could have been police lockup, man.
Were the real cops in on it, or?
I don't know. That was just a guess that where they could have gotten some of that shit from. Just evidence locker. I don't know.
I'm just saying, obviously,
They could have just gone to a muffler shop.
If it's a semi-sanctioned event, they would have to have police there because for security, you just have to.
There's a bunch of Florida men here.
Most municipalities, if you do something like that, you'd have to, unless you had a piece of private property that's big enough to hold this event on.
It sounds like that was pretty organized.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you do a well-organized event like that, you're going to have police presence by permitting and stuff.
Let's see here. Guy that trained for the relay race by riding a bicycle around his neighborhood with a second bike strapped to his back.
That's even fine. They're prepping.
I have an absolute disregard for self-preservation. I will do anything.
Good story. What a great News of the Weird.
Serves as captain for the 5-man team. Hanky Spanky. When I was in military, I did a little alligator wrestling. Sumo style, holding pitchers of beer or running from actual sheriff's deputies while jumping fences and avoiding obstacles. Others faced a scramble to grab cash flying in simulated hurricane winds.
Love it. Love it.
$45 per ticket for spectators.
I don't love it as much anymore. I don't know if I'd pay $45. Probably some ridiculous beer prices. If it's BYOB, maybe.
So there was a guy that went. He and his wife made the 180-mile trip from Port St. Richie to, quote unquote, watch the stupidity occur on the grandest, most spectacular scale.
I love it. I want to go. Where did it actually take place?
I think St. Augustine. Yeah, St. Augustine.
Okay. Yeah. Northeast. I get it.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, no, it's in Florida. What are you talking about?
Northeast of Florida. The compass still works there. Not the brain compass, apparently. That's my jokes. Last call? Anything else? You got one more? You got one more little nugget out of this story you want to get to me?
Let's see here.
It's got to be better than the Florida Man games if you're moving on to a new story. Save it for next week.
Yeah.
Florida Man games, people. It's a thing. Road trip next year. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go. We're going to put a team together. We're going to have the Almost Agreement, not Florida Man games team. We'll bring some of that Tennessee charm to the Florida Man games. No beer, all Jack Daniels, all weekend. It'll be a good time. Anyway, Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I get violent on Jack Daniels. I don't drink Jack Daniels anymore for that reason. Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Our website is almostagreement.com. Check that out. It's cool. We've got a Facebook and all the other stuff. Go to your favorite podcast provider, get us there. Tell us, shoot me an email. And Chris, I'll look forward to your schedule availability. Like right now, like maybe Tuesday afternoon would be a good time for us to get together. You won't be busy on Tuesday this week, will you? Anyway, Almost Agreement, everybody. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.